Hey, what's going on, guys? Today I want to show you how to make a to-do app using Blazor, which is a C# framework, which is a front-end framework similar to something you would get with like Angular or React in the JavaScript world. This to-do app is pretty simple for the most part, nothing too fancy here. You will be able to add to-do, so we can say make my bed, something like that, and we can add that. You'll be able to click on the item in order to say it is complete, or click on the X in order to remove it. This should be pretty quick, shouldn't take too long, so let's get into what we're going to need to get going. Okay, so the next thing that we're going to need is to get ourselves an editor. We got Visual Studio Code here. You'll be able to click this link and it will navigate you to this page, and you'll be able to either it'll already automatically have your operating system up here. You can just click download, or you can click this little arrow and pick whatever version that you might need. The next thing you're going to need to do is download .NET itself. You'll be able to click this link and this will bring you to here, which it should be 3.0 or around 3.0. 3.1 is the latest, then maybe I'll update the video to do so, but for right now we're on 3.0 and you'll be able to download whatever version you might need of the .NET framework. And after you have downloaded the .NET framework and installed it, you're going to want to add these templates. This little line right here will add some Blazor templates, and we have to run this in the terminal, so let's go ahead and open a terminal. Zoom in on that a little bit, magnify, and here we'll just go ahead and paste that. Doesn't really matter where you do this. Once you run that, it's going to download some templates for us, and these templates are basically just like scaffoldings for different versions of projects that you could run. The one we're most concerned about is this Blazor WASM right here. What we're going to want to do is let's navigate to at least where I keep my projects as a projects folder, which I recommend anyone creating a projects folder on their computer. Just a good way to organize. And I have a Blazor folder here, and in here we can run .NET and new, and again it's going to be Blazor WASM, right? And here we can do -- name to specify the name, and we will call this Blazor to-do app. Let that run. It's going to download any files that we need. Okay, there we go. Now we should be able to cd into Blazor to-do app. Right, all right, now we should be able to see the files inside of here. And if you already have Visual Studio Code installed, you might be able to do code dot, and that will open Visual Studio for you. Now, if that doesn't work, what you are able to do is do Command P for the Mac or Control P if you're on Windows, and you should be able to type something like this. There it is, shell command install command code. You can just hit enter on that, or click it just like this, and that will actually install code to your command path, so you'll be able to do the little fancy code dot just like I did here. Okay, let's flip back over to our project and take a look at what we got. So these top two directories here, I'm not really too worried about those. Inside of this pages file, we have a counter, a fetch data file, and an index file. This will be kind of like the root file, and this is where we'll do most of our work. Inside this shared folder, nothing too interesting to look at here. There is a nav menu file that you will see kind of on the left when we load up the screen, and inside this www root folder, you will see there is some place for some styles, some sample data, and the index.html file, which is basically just the bootstrapped file that ends up loading the code originally that loads our Blazor project. So what I really want to do is, if you have the terminal open, or you can press Control and hit the tilde button on your keyboard in Visual Studio Code, and that will open it up. We'll be able to run .NET run, And once we run .NET Run, it should build the project, and we'll be able to go to localhost 5000, which should show it running. So you have home, which again is this index file, counter, which was that counter file. These are just some pages that come with the Blazor templates. It's kind of nice. This weather forecast kind of just simulates loading data over an API call or an AJAX call. Okay, over in our index.razor file, let's go ahead and delete just a few lines here inside of this H1. We will replace hello world with to do app. And let's save that, and we'll go back over to the files or the running server on a local host, and when we refresh the page, nothing is changed, nothing shows. And that's because our project is not recompiling. So let's Control C to kill what we have going on there, and we will run .NET instead of .NET Run, we will run .NET Watch Run like this. Once we get that up and going, then when we save files like .NET Razor or .razor files, it will actually reload the page or recompile. So let's reload that. All right, now we have our to-do app text that we had just changed. And if we save this, we'll see that this is detecting file changed, and it's going to restart it. Actually, we should probably add a little change so that way. All right, so we have no to-do app and exclamation here, so it's going to rebuild. And after it rebuilds, we'll be able to refresh the page, and there we go. We got our exclamation point. Cool, so we got this rebuilding. Okay, so the next thing we're going to want to do is add a container div here. So to do container, call it this. Let's move this up into inside that container. We'll go ahead and save that, and then let's move on to adding some styles. So in your www root directory, we'll open this CSS directory here, and then we're just going to add our own CSS file, main.css, and inside of this index.html, which is also in the www root. Let's go here and let's make a new line, and we will add main.css. Okay, now we're going to populate this with a gist I have up here. Now we'll open this, and inside of all of this, we will copy these styles. And the reason I'm doing this is more or less to get us away from writing all these styles ourselves. I don't want this to be more or less about the styles, but more about Blazor itself. So back in here, if we save that, we'll get files changed. And then once that rebuilds, we should be able to go back to our localhost 5000 and refresh the page. All right, now we got this right in the center, kind of right where we're going to want it to be. All right, so let's go back to our index.razor file. And inside of this file, let's create another container div, and we'll give this a class of to-do input. How about that? And inside of here, we're going to add an input, and we'll have it of type text. That, and right underneath that, we will add a button. Oops, I need the extra parts there. Button, and we're just going to have the word add in here. So let's save that and see how that's looking. And hasn't quite rebuilt yet. Still rebuilding. There we go. All right, so now we got our input and our add button right here. Doesn't do anything yet. You can type in it, but there's no actions. Okay, so let's go ahead and start adding a little bit of functionality. So we're going to define this at code block. This is the syntax to basically add some functionality with some properties and methods to this index.razor file. And the first thing we're going to define here is a public string as a property, input, and make that a getter and a setter. And then we shall bind this to the input up here. So the syntax for that is at bind. As you can see, there's a few options here if you install the extensions. So at bind and to do input. So this will basically, when someone types, this is a two-way data binding that will update to do input kind of inline. Now, the only way we're really going to be able to see that is if when we click, we actually do something else. So on click equals, and let's go ahead and make the method we're going to use to do that. So we'll make public void, and let's make something called add to do. Just like that, and then just so we get some sort of output in the console, we can do write line and then to do input, just like that. And we will copy this and put it in here. Go ahead and save that. Looks like we got no errors here, no errors down here. And once that gets restarted, okay, let's come in here and refresh the page. Let us inspect. Okay, and we'll say, oops, make bed. And inside the console, if we click add, we will say make bed right there. All right, so after we've done that, okay, so let's go ahead and instead of having these to-dos print to the console, let's go ahead and add them to a list. That way we can print it to the HTML. So public list, we'll define a list here, a property called to-dos, which equals new, oh, not list, list, string, and just like that. Okay, now we have to-dos. Copy that, to-dos dot and add, which is a method on the list class, and then inside of here we'll just add to do input. Now this will add the to-dos to the this will add the to-do input to the to-dos list as a string, but it won't actually display anything to the screen just yet. In order to get that going, we're gonna have to do an at here for each variable. We'll call this to do, and this will be to dos, which matches our definition or our property name down here. And here we'll say at and to do, which references this to do right here. So each string in this list will match with to do here. And then we're kind of just saying, hey, we need to print it out right here to the screen. All right, so let's save that. And once this is saved, we'll be able to go back to our screen. Looks like it's starting. All right, let's go back here, refresh the page. Let's say wash car. Like that. There we go. So now we have wash car. Awesome. So the next thing we're going to want to do, add a little markup. So inside of here, let's add div, and we'll add a class to that, which is to do item. Inside of that, we'll add another div with another class. Call this to do item underscore underscore text, and this is a BEM naming convention, so you can look that up if you'd like. Another div, and then this will be class equals to do dash item underscore underscore close. Okay, so inside of there, that is where we will, inside of this to do item text, we will add the to do text, and then inside of here, we will add some HTML times, just like that. That's a nice little encoding there that will give us a little X that we can see on the screen instead of just using something like an X like this. It just looks a little nicer to me. Okay, so let's refresh the screen, and when we say let's just do testing, Okay, no, now we got it in two places. Looks like I left it somewhere, but you got testing here and an X there. So let's see, where did I add that to do? Oh, there we go. Let's get rid of that. Okay, we'll save that. And let's make sure that rendered back out. So refresh the page and let's say testing again. Add that. Okay, so now we have our testing and our X here. The X still doesn't do anything. Now when I click this, we don't get like a little crossed out value here. And this testing is still getting left behind. So let's address those issues. Okay, so the first thing we're going to want to do is when we add a to-do, we want to clear out this to-do input. So to-do input, and let's set that to an empty string. Let's save that and see if that does what we want. We also don't need this console log write line anymore, so we can get rid of that. Going to let it rebuild. Let's see, refresh the page and we'll add testing. And okay, looks like we got our clear out. So make bed and do that. Okay, cool. So the next thing we're going to want to look at is how to get this X and removing of a to-do to work. So here is our button, our little X. So let's add a handler. So on click, and we will create a method called remove to do. And in the @code section, we'll create a method. Void, it's not going to return anything. Remove to do. And there we go. So how are we going to know what to do we're trying to remove? Now this for each iterates over, but it doesn't give us like a context or an index of what we actually need. So what I'm going to do instead is create a for @for, and that will give us the scaffolding that we need. Let's replace this with to-dos count, because that's what lists use. And we're going to just take this and paste it up here. And then we can just get rid of this part. Okay, there we go. Now, after we got that, we need to create var index equals I. And we're going to want to pass this in this index into this remove to do. Now, this won't quite work the way we're expecting to right here. Like we can't just call remove to do and pass in the index, because this will actually immediately invoke this function or this method. So what we really need to do is, well, we can leave that. We need to wrap this in an method like this and kind of create a lambda that this onClick will call, and then that will end up calling the remove to do. Now we also need to fix this up here. So let's say var to do equals to do's, and we'll get the index of each item that we're iterating through. Right? So that way this is still going to work as we'd want, and the remove to do, oh, it's telling me right here, we got an error. So I need to actually add that argument. So down here we'll say int, and we'll say index. And then from the to-dos themselves, we'll do to-dos.remove and remove @ which, as you can see there in the definition, removes at an index. So I'll do that, remove at index, and then just pass in the index, just like that. All right, let's let that save. Let's see if we still get some errors. Building. Okay, don't see any problems there. Let's go ahead and refresh that page and see what we got. So let's say testing again. And we'll say wash car. Okay, let's try to remove this. Very nice, very nice. Let's do another one. Testing again. One more to do. Okay, and let's delete that one. Okay, awesome. It looks like it is working as we want. Now that we have the ability to remove to-dos, we're going to want to add the ability to mark as complete. So when we click the text right here, for each to-do line, we'll be able to put a little cross over this, just letting us know that we have done the task. So back in the code, currently we are only iterating over a list of strings. as you can see here, and we're going to want to update this to a different kind of model so that way we can add a property for something like a complete or not complete. So let's go into our root over here and let's add a new folder. We'll call this models. And inside here, if you download the C# extensions, you should have two options right here. You can add a C# class. You don't necessarily need it, but it is a little handy. Add to do, just like that. Okay, now we can add two properties here. We'll call string, and we'll just call this title, and another property, and we'll call have this be a boolean, and this will be is complete, just like that. Now back into our index.razor, and in here we're going to want to update this. So let's say to do, and replace this one over here to say the same thing, to do and to do. Now that's not going to work right off the bat. We're going to want to add a using statement to let the template know that we are using this to do model from Blazor.models, and Blazor.models is, as you can see here, the namespace of Blazor.models. So that's where C#'s ability to namespace things will come into play, and so it's really nice. It's easy to follow. Let's save that. Now that is going to break a few things, because when we're iterating, before we were going over some strings, so this was actually a string. We need to update this to be to do.title. As you can see, we can get a little IntelliSense there, and that helps us lay that out. And let's see, and so this all as well, to do's as a list, this is no longer a list of strings, so we're going to want to update this as well. So let's do var to do equals new to do, like that, and then to do dot title equals to do input, just like that, and then we can just pass in the to do itself. Okay, I think that's all we need. Let's save, see if we get any errors, and then we'll go back and look at our screen. And still compiling. Okay, cool. All right, let's refresh the screen. All right, it doesn't seem like we have any errors, so let's add testing. Just like this, testing, okay. Hello, make bid. Okay, let's see if our remove still works. Looks like that's still working. Okay, let's go back over into the code, and we want to add this mark as complete ability, right? So somewhere along the lines, we're going to want to click this text, and we'll have a method that somehow sets it to is complete. So right after this, let us add an on click and set it to mark let's call it mark as complete. Okay, we'll say mark as complete, and down here get that going, void mark as complete. And we're going to want to pass in the to do, right? So just like we did this right here, we're going to want to be able to do the same thing. So let's do an at, and then we'll have two braces, one close, just make that kind of inline function there. But then I think we can close it off just like that, and then we'll pass in the actual to do that we are capturing right here. Now let's update this to know that it is passing that to do in. So say to do is to do, and down here we'll say to do is equal to do dot is complete is equal to true. Cool. There we go. We'll save that. Let's see what happens. Okay, refresh the page. No errors. So let's say make bed, make bath. Ooh. Yeah, well, we can make bath, okay. Oh, and so when we click that, nothing happens just yet. So we're going to need to do a little more updating in order to fix that. Okay, let's see what we need to do to make that work. So on this div right here, we're going to want to update this class right here to do something different if a to-do is marked as complete or not. So let's just space this out a little bit. Okay, looks like I missed there we go. Okay, so we have this class. So in here, we're going to want to do what we similarly have done. Say at, and instead we'll say to do dot is complete, and if it is complete, then we want to return to do text. And let's close that off. To do text. Put that on the outside. Oops. To do text with another class called complete. Otherwise, we want to have just the normal to do dash item underscore text all by itself. There we go. Okay. And so basically all we're doing is a ternary statement that says, hey, if this is complete, then we're going to set it to this class. And if this is not true, then we're going to just set it to this class, which is just the original that we had before. So let's go back over here. That is refreshed, and I don't see any errors. So we'll say testing and add, and then we click it. Oh, there we go. Cool. So we got this crossing out. Now let's say that we wanted to add the ability to, when we click one of these, we want to add the ability to undo it. So maybe we thought we were done, or you accidentally clicked it and you wanted to undo it. So let's update the project to do this now. And in order to get that working, we're going to come down to our mark as complete method here, and instead of just setting is complete to true, we're actually going to set is complete to the opposite of is complete. So all we're doing here is saying if this was true, let's do the opposite of that and set it to false, and if this was false, then we're setting it the opposite to true. And so let's save this, and we can be able to see that maybe a little more clear in the code or in the HTML. Okay, so there we go. Let's refresh the page, and we'll add our make bed, and add that. Now when we click on this, okay, we got our mark still, and then when we unclick it, it undoes. So we'll just do another one just to make sure. Testing. Undo, we can still remove to-dos. Awesome. I hope you guys enjoyed the tutorial, and if you want to see some more stuff like it, then please like and subscribe below, and thank you for watching.